It's important to precise what will be the rules for living together in Quebec, and I think we will not divide the population, but contrary, nous unirons la population du Québec.
Well, Pauline Marois' vision of that united Quebec will become clearer tomorrow when the Parti Québécois unveils what its Charter of Quebec values may look like. The Charter is expected to ban the wearing of religious clothing and symbols in the workplace by all public employees. The province's religious minorities say it is aimed squarely at them. And while many of them are born and bred in Quebec, some say they no longer feel like the kind of Quebecer Marois wants to see. Here's Terence McKenna with of questionable value.
For Saluja Singh, wrapping his hair in a turban is a ritual that he performs every day before going to work as an emergency room doctor. He has done this all his life while growing up in Quebec and studying at McGill University. Dr. Singh feels that his turban and his Sikhism define him and sees no reason that he should have to remove it. At 11 p.m., he leaves home for the overnight shift at the Royal Victoria Hospital.
I was born here in Montreal. I grew up in Brossard, Quebec. I had some very open-minded people who lived in my neighborhood. Whether they're French or English, they just liked me for who I was. It never even crossed my mind that this sort of thing would happen here in Quebec. That's why this is so shocking to me, because I've gone 36 years of my life thinking I was a Quebecer, and then this last summer became very clear to me that I'm not.
There is no exception. You are Catholic, you are Muslim, you are from any religion.
This summer, Pauline Marois announced that the PQ government would press ahead with its proposed Charter of Quebec Values, which would reportedly ban all religious clothing or symbols in the workplace for all Quebec civil servants, including teachers, nurses, and doctors.
What we do announce, it is the obligation for the state, for the government, for the institutional organization, school, hospital, Société d'État, that we announce the obligation to be neutral.
If they actually pass this law, will you take off the turban to keep your job?
Absolutely not. And I've spoken to my bosses at both the McGill University Health Center and St. Mary's, and they would not want me to. They defend me and they defend my rights.
So if it comes to that point, would you have to leave Quebec, do you think? Or what, how do you view that whole question?
It would kill me, but yes, I would have to leave Quebec. It would not even be an option for me. There would not be, if it got to the point where I had to choose between my individual rights as a Sikh versus my staying in Quebec, there's no question I will leave.
Opinion polls in Quebec show strong public support for the government's proposed Charter of Quebec Values, especially in rural areas where there is little daily contact between the French-speaking majority and visible minorities. Here in the northeastern town of Saguenay, many say they are fed up with accommodations for religious minorities.
On se plie tout aux exigences de tout le monde. Fait que dans 10 ans d'ici, nous aussi, on va avoir un turban sur la tête, on n'aura pas le choix parce que c'est eux autres qui vont venir.
Dr.
Singh says he understands that many Quebec francophones worry that they are being engulfed by English and other cultures.
They have a fear that the French distinct society is going to be lost. Which is ironic here in this case is that they fought so hard throughout history to maintain their distinct society that they're willing to trample on the right of other individuals to maintain their individuality.
The tension level in Quebec increased last week when someone threw pig blood on the Saguenay Mosque and left a hate-filled note telling Muslims to leave Quebec. The Saguenay incident has set off tremors in every mosque in Quebec. Muslims here are already sensitive because of numerous previous attacks. This mosque in Dorval, just outside of Montreal, has been attacked 8 times in recent years. Its windows have been broken and its walls covered with anti-Islamic graffiti. Hadil El Masri worries that the Charter of Quebec Values will start the sort of anti-Muslim hysteria that has been seen elsewhere in the world.
People feel a threat, they feel fear that it will happen here.
Does it make you consider your future, whether your future is in Quebec, to have this whole debate happening here?
Oh, yeah,
and these laws passed?
Definitely. Definitely.
In the last week, Pauline Marois has made a series of controversial comments about the impending Charter of Quebec values. She suggested that headscarves worn by Muslim women are inconsistent with gender equality because they are worn as an act of submission to men. Muslim convert Karen Lee Whiteman, who wears the veil to work at the Montreal Children's Hospital, says that Marois is mistaken about the hijab being an act of submission to men.
A submission to God, not to men, not to other people or anything. And I also feel that if I would have to be forced to take off my veil, that would be a submission to the government, right?
So you won't do it?
No.
Premier Marois also suggested last week that female Muslim teachers wear the hijab to proselytize, to win converts for the Islamic religion.
I don't think anyone wearing their veil would be pressuring anyone else to succumb to their religion. In fact, Islam doesn't teach that. Islam teaches tolerance and the fact that everyone should do what they wish and what they feel is right.
While the Quebec government moves to ban all religious clothing and symbols worn by public servants, all parties here firmly support keeping the crucifix in the National Assembly. The government claims that it is now a cultural and historical symbol of Quebec's Catholic past, not a religious symbol.
If you're making exceptions to one, why aren't you making exceptions to others? So they say, oh, well, this is a part of their heritage. Well, I'm sorry, the turban is a part of my heritage. My grandfather, his grandfather before him, and my father, we all wear turbans, and we're proud of it. So if you want to talk about heritage, what about mine?
At the Sikh temple in the Montreal suburb of LaSalle, the overwhelming reaction to the proposed new Quebec Charter of Values is the same as you hear in mosques or synagogues.
For a lot of my friends, it's fear. We fear that we're going to have to leave. We're going to have to leave the province where we grew up. And we were hoping to stay here, but I don't see how a lot of my friends can stay here if their children are not going to be allowed to grow up to become what they want to be.
Former Parti Québécois Premier Bernard Landry says Quebec desperately needs the new Charter of Values.
We are receiving 55,000 immigrants each year. That must be managed. And we receive brotherly all those people. They are welcome here, but they are here to integrate.
There are reports that the Charter of Values to be unveiled tomorrow will include a phase-in period and temporary opting-out provisions for some schools and hospitals, but none of that affects the opposition of most minorities working for the Quebec government. Dr. Singh still says that if the proposed law comes into force and is not struck down by the courts, he will leave Quebec. Terence McKenna, CBC News, Montreal.